12. That's the average age in which a young man is introduced to porn for the very first time. And if you have found this video, there's a high chance that you are part of that statistic, just like I was. Now this controlled my brain for the next 10 years until I finally found the cheat code on how to quit. I was finally free. So I thought. Because what came next did not feel like rock bottom. It felt like the best year and a half of my life up to that point. That is exactly why I never saw myself sliding backwards. Now, by the end of this video, man, I'm going to be showing you and teaching you exactly how to quit porn for good. Not only that, I'm going to be showing you, more importantly, how to not go backwards after you have finally quit, like I did. I'm going to be teaching you everything I learned during that 1.5 year period. Now, this is going to make you way more energized, way less ashamed, genuinely confident, and none of that performative confidence that you see a lot on social media that is fake and doesn't come from any sort of proof. You'll become a man that a woman finally respects. Now, bro, if any of that sounds like something you've been chasing recently, then I recommend you stay, because this video is definitely for you. So most of us think that porn is just a discipline problem. Now, discipline is important, but it's not the entire solution. Because here's what happens when we focus on discipline and willpower alone. We will beat that urge and we'll get a good streak going. Maybe we're able to give up for 3 months or 6 months or up to even 1.5 years. But then the problem is, porn ends up showing up elsewhere, just wearing a different mask. And here's what I mean by that. You've probably had a mate before who used to vape and he gave up vaping, but he ended up just picking up smoking cigarettes instead. Here's what I'm talking about here. That addiction didn't die. It just got relocated to another addiction instead. This is the thing that nobody who is selling you a 90-day how to quit porn program is telling you. No one tells you this part. They focus on, let's just quit porn. They give you that result. They give you the result of you've quit porn. But now you've just picked up something else. You've started scrolling on Instagram all the time. You've started wasting all your time playing video games. You've picked up vaping or smoking or doing weed, doing drugs, partying, whatever it is. You've done one really, really good thing, stopping porn, but you've just replaced it with something else. So as I said, I'm part of that statistic. I was introduced to porn at the age of 12. I remember it vividly. I remember it was one of my mate's birthdays and there was just like 5 or 6 of us hanging out at his house. One of the boys just decided to get it up and we're all just watching it together. Sounds really gay thinking about it. The dude who showed it to us, I remember asking him like, how often do you watch this stuff? And he predicted the next decade of my life. He said something along the lines of, I don't watch it every day, but there'll be like a month where I'll watch it like all the time and then I won't watch it for a few months. But then there'll be like 1 month again, it will come up, or a few weeks into the future where I'll sort of be really hooked in it. But then I'll just forget about it for a few weeks and then I'll be really hooked in it again. So it wasn't until I was around 18 years old, so let's say 6 years later, until I actually discovered that this habit was a problem, that it's actually a bad thing to do. Now obviously during that time you hide it from your parents, you don't talk about it yet, but it wasn't until I was 18 years old, sitting in school just with a bunch of mates. I think it was maths class, and one of my mates was talking about this thing called nofap and the benefits of not blowing a load every second day and how you're going to start levitating after day 50. I remember there was 3 of us mates sitting next to each other in this class, and we sort of challenged ourselves, let's give nofap a go. 3 frustrating years later, in May of 2022, I had finally succeeded in overcoming porn after relapsing and relapsing and relapsing for 3 years straight. The next 1.5 years after that, they looked really good. And this was the peak of my DJ and my party era, and I was DJing and partying while staying sober. You know, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing drugs. The only thing I was doing was I was vaping, I was having nicotine. If I did drink, it was probably only once every 2 or 3 months on a special occasion, and it often was not a big night. I had really, really good self-control at this point, because I could apply everything I'd learned from porn to the party era. I was also making some money from doing some remote sales, whilst coaching some other young adults through their own self-improvement journey and how to overcome their own bad habits. But I was secretly hiding another dirty secret, another dirty habit from most of the people around me, besides the people who I was going out DJing with and partying with. I had conquered porn, only to just replace that space that porn left with nicotine. My vaping addiction was 10 times worse than my porn addiction. I would be going through 2 to 3 10,000 puff vapes per week, which anyone who has vaped before knows exactly how much that is. I would be going into full rages when I did not have my vape, you know, flipping the bed trying to find it if it goes underneath the car seat. I needed it almost 24/7. But then there were periods, 1 month periods, where I sort of quit it for a little bit, but then it came back. And it was the exact same problem with porn, but just in different clothing. Until one day, standing in that very corner of my room, between a coaching call, I had the window open and I probably had 5 minutes until a call. And I was puffing on my vape and blowing it out my window so that smoke wouldn't come into my room, so that if anyone did enter my room, there wasn't any evidence or smell that I'd been vaping. My mum just walked in and she caught me. The look on her face is something I'll remember forever. The disappointment and the shame. And she didn't pick it straight away, but she came in to ask me a question. And it was just as I'd taken a puff and inhale, I was like, she walks in. And I obviously couldn't speak. I obviously couldn't open my mouth. And slowly, the smoke or the vape was just pouring out of my nose. And there it was, I was exposed. After that, I'd realized that I'd simply fixed the symptom with porn, with quitting porn. But I hadn't got down to the root problem. And therefore the conclusion that I've come to is the goal should never be to quit porn by itself. It should be total self-control. Otherwise, just like I did, you'll just replace it with something else. I'm not saying quitting porn was not influential for me, because that taught me the first 80% of how to overcome any bad habit, such as porn. But removing every other addiction I had, such as vaping, such as video games, and gaining more control over my phone even, that taught me the remaining 20% that I did not know. And that 20% was finding and fixing the root cause of my addiction. So actually learning what is the thing that causes addiction and how do you fix that? And that is when I created something that I call the subtraction method. Because what I learned is it doesn't matter how many good habits you're doing. Because I was meditating every day. I was doing the cold showers. I was journaling. I was doing gratitude journaling as well. I was going to the gym, staying fit, eating clean. It doesn't matter all the good things you're doing, because self-improvement is more about subtraction than it is addition. Because think about this. Let's say you have a bucket and there is a leak in the bucket. It does not matter how much water you pour into the bucket is not going to fill up until that leak is plugged. Your little secret bad habit that you do in private that no one knows about, or maybe even the obvious one that everyone knows about, that is the reason why you have plateaued and you can't go past a certain point. Because the change you're looking for and the thing you need to learn is on the other side of patching up that hole and overcoming that bad habit. Because as it says here, like one substance or one vice gone means absolutely nothing if something else moves in. You know, pouring into this bucket is meaningless if all the progress you're doing is just flowing back out. Now the subtraction method closes that gap. And I'm going to take you through it step by step now, exactly what you have to do at each stage. There's 4 stages. Step 1 is your mental, which is sort of like the basic mindset. Step 2 is in the environmental. Step 3 is what I call the chemical. And step 4 is the emotional. And I'm going to go through them right now. Here's everything you need to know about not just how to quit porn, but how to make sure you can quit everything and have complete self-control. So step 1 is the mental. As I said, it's foundational mindset work that all of us need to do. And we've probably heard of some of these, but some of these we might not have heard of. So I'm going to tell you right now, the root cause of absolutely anything you do, including your bad habits, is your thoughts and your beliefs. And I want you to write this down. Your thoughts control your emotions, which control your actions, which control your outcomes. Another way to say this is your beliefs determine how you feel, which determine how you act, which determine the results you see in life. If you're someone who doesn't believe that for whatever reason, based on what's happened to you in the past, you don't believe that you deserve good things in life, that's going to make you feel a certain way. That's going to make you not show up in a way that gets you good things in life. So for example, I had a deep-rooted belief that I'm not disciplined. I'm not a disciplined person. You know, I give in, I give up every now and then. And that makes me show up and act as someone who does give up and who is quite disciplined. And it comes down to this principle here called be, do, have. Be, do, have. So what that means is, in order to quit porn, as the example here, that's the have, that's the goal. So have is the goal. In order to quit porn, you don't just stop watching porn and chuck on a porn blocker and things on these lines. That's only going to last so long. You have to go down to the B, and you have to first see yourself as someone who does not watch porn. And I love to use this analogy of, let's say you're at a club. There's 2 versions of you. There's the version of you who has the belief or the self-image. Self-image just means the way you see yourself. I'm trying to quit. I'm not that disciplined, so I'm trying to quit. I'm trying to improve my discipline. Versus someone who just says, I don't drink. If both of those people are handed a drink, who's more likely to say no to the drink? The person who believes, I don't drink. You know, I'm just trying to stop watching porn, which means I do watch porn sometimes. Versus, I don't do this. This is not part of who I am. That second stage, thoughts, emotions, actions, outcome. Emotions are a hard driver of things. Think about when you watch porn the most. It's at night when you can't sleep. You're feeling a bit restless. You're feeling too awake than what you would like to. Maybe something's on your mind. So you go and distract yourself by watching porn, because that will tire you out and take things off your mind, and then you fall asleep. Getting down to the root cause is figuring out what you are thinking about, or what you are believing about what you're thinking about, that is causing you to stay up at night, or to feel anxious, or to worry, or to stress. And then that makes you go watch porn. So watching porn isn't your problem, but it's your solution to whatever thought you're believing that's making you feel stressed or worried or anxious. As well there, like other mindset things such as your purpose, and purpose is just the reason why you're watching porn. So if you can find a really strong reason as well as to why to stop watching porn, that's going to be very helpful too. So for example, a very strong reason could be, I need to stop watching porn because that's going to affect the type of woman I will attract, which will affect the way in which my son or my daughter is going to be raised. If I am lustful, if I am controlled by porn, I'm probably going to attract a low quality woman, which means if I have a daughter, she's going to be a low quality daughter, and I don't want a daughter who is just passed around, for example. So that's a very big reason to quit porn. Step 2 is your environmental, and this is probably a lot of the things that you have tried that do work. And these work, which is why you need to implement all these 4 steps. And you don't just do them like in order, you do them sort of all at once. But environmental is making it really hard just to watch porn. And one of my favorite quotes is this: is a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. So just make it absolutely impossible to watch porn. And this is going to help you to, in the meantime, level up your mental, which is the step 1, your emotional, which is the step 4 as well. And then step 3, which is your chemical. So what that would look like is installing a porn blocker, just making it almost impossible to access. For drinking or for weed or something, it's making it, that would be like blocking the person's number. Making sure it's out of your room, getting rid of it first, doing whatever you need to do to make sure it's extremely hard to get. So for example, what I did, I had a blocker on my phone, but I realized I could still access porn on my iPod Touch via hotspotting my phone to my iPod Touch. I grabbed my iPod Touch, put it in a little lock case in the top of my wardrobe in a basket, and put the key somewhere else in my room that was inconvenient to access, so that when I did want to watch porn in the middle of the night, I'd have to make a lot of noise to watch it, and it would just take ages to get there. It required a lot of effort to the point where I just didn't do it anymore. Step 3 is your chemical, and this is talking all about dopamine. You've probably heard a lot about dopamine, but dopamine summarized is chasing pain leads to pleasure, and chasing pleasure leads to pain. The reason why lots of us take the easy route, such as watching porn or playing video games or scrolling on our phone, instead of going to the gym or working on our purpose, studies, or whatever it may be, or even just fall asleep instead of scrolling on our phone. It's because our brain is so used to a high baseline of pleasure, because it's been hyperstimulated. It's been trained to expect a lot of pleasure. When life feels a little bit boring, life's going a bit slow, and we're not feeling overstimulated, we crave the high sugar, we crave the phone scroll, we crave the porn over the simpleness and the beauty of a natural woman actually sitting down and doing some hard work, going to the gym and things along these lines, or going for a walk and being outside in the sun. Because your brain will always prioritize the thing that gives you the most pleasure in the least amount of effort, which is why it's more attractive to go and scroll on porn than to go and get rejected by 10 women until one says yes on a date, and then you have to date her for a few times until maybe she becomes your girlfriend. Understanding dopamine is very helpful. The key thing with dopamine and the chemical side is manufacturing a life that is actually more hard than it is easy. Life doesn't necessarily feel hard because it's hard. It feels hard because you're living life on easy mode. You're spending too much time scrolling, all your showers are warm, and you're just lying in bed all day. You're sleeping in, and I do this sometimes too. And this is like what I've noticed too. Life feels hard when you're just chilling out, when you're taking it easy and you're being a bit lazy. I learned this from doing a 44-day dopamine detox, which was extremely hard. I've made a whole video on that. If you want to go watch it, just go onto my channel and type in dopamine detox and it'll be there. That was extremely hard. Life felt easy. Felt much easier than even what it has been recently that I've not been in a detox. You might have heard of this principle that goes, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. That's from a book on my bookshelf back there called Hard Times Create Strong Men. And basically, good times create weak men. The reason why you feel quite weak at the moment is because you're just having too many good times. So we need to flip that and voluntarily make your life hard, because life's going to be hard either way. Life is suffering, and we know this because there's suffering both in discipline and being undisciplined. There's suffering both in watching porn and not watching porn. They both have cons. So we might as well choose the suffering we are willing to go through instead of letting life dictate what suffering we go through. So what this can look like is deliberately giving yourself hard things to do, such as going to the gym, such as having the cold showers, and the things that you've likely done or have been doing, which were the things I was doing whilst I was during those 1.5 years when I was quitting porn and up to that point as well. Those things help. We need to make sure we keep doing them. But the last one, step 4, is the root cause, which is, or it's part of the root cause. Your mental and your emotional they sort of go hand in hand. So, but I would say the emotional is the actual work you need to do, because it goes thoughts, emotions, actions, outcomes. And most of the time, in order for us to discover the thought that is actually holding us back, which could be a belief that we don't think we're good enough, it's usually hidden by an emotion. When I talk about emotions, I don't mean this in this modern feminist type of way. Basically, what I mean by emotions is learning how to not react every time a single desire comes up. So whenever you feel horny, you'll never get rid of the desire of feeling horny, but the goal is to not react to feeling horny by going and watching porn. It's just to let it be. Let yourself be horny until horniness goes away. And you know this is true. Like with hunger, which is another feeling and an emotion and a desire, you can be hungry and not eat, and then an hour later it goes away. Same is true for the majority of your emotions, especially as a man. So the emotional aspect of this is being able to let your emotions just occur as they occur, and then deciding which ones you need to act on so that you can decide logically what to do. This will make you more productive with your work, so you're making more logical decisions. For example, like I've been recording content a lot recently, especially on Instagram, which is quite vulnerable and I don't really enjoy it. And every time I go and click the phone, I feel anxious and I feel scared and that I don't want to do it. Learning how to handle your emotions allows you to just make the logical decision that even though I feel this way, I'm going to do what is right. That applies to porn and every other addiction. And these are the things I did not know the first time I quit. It was only once I learned how to quit vaping and I implemented all these things that I was able to not just quit those two, but every other bad habit that I have had and that I'll probably have in the future that, you might pick up. The most important thing to notice about the emotional is silence is our greatest teacher, and it's spending more time in silence. Even if you, every single day, this is an actionable step, sit down, stare at a blank wall. This wall isn't blank, but I've got a blank wall over there. Sit down at a blank wall, 15 minutes and just stare. This will teach you more about your emotions and your thoughts and how to overcome any bad habit, and also just how to progress in absolutely anything in life than watching another YouTube video or reading another 10 books. Spending more time in silence, which for most of us is extremely scary, and which is also the main reason why we tend to distract ourselves and escape our thoughts and go and watch porn or play video games or scroll on our phone. It happens when we're bored, and it happens when things go silent. So if we can practice being silent and being okay with boredom, then what's going to happen next time we're bored? We're not going to scroll and reach for our phone as much. The reason why you go and escape is because there's a thought or an emotion that you don't like, and most of the time that could be something like boredom, it could be something like stress. So in order to not feel that emotion, our solution is to go and scroll on our phone, because it takes us away from that. We don't have to think about it. Right now, make the decision that you're not going to let that be your solution anymore. You're going to find another solution, which is the silence, learning how to feel an emotion without being controlled by it, learning how to breathe through an emotion so that you can actually deal with the things that you've been masking, such as the regret from the past or the anxiousness for the future. Spending more time in silence will reveal to you those things that you've been avoiding. And this, I'll tell you, this is not fun. This is not enjoyable, and this is part of the hard times create strong men. But I promise you, over time, you'll become much better at this, to the point where you're not as impulsive, you're not as reactive, and you're much better able to make the decision as, do I watch porn, or will I decide not to watch porn? Fast forward 6 months from now, you'll be pretty much in complete control. For me, porn was my solution, as I said, and so was vaping. Yours might be porn, or might be something else. It might be weed, might be drinking, might be scrolling, might be gaming even. Whatever it is that's been running your mind behind the scenes. If you don't learn how to deal with the root causes of these 4 things, then it'll just be the exact same mechanism, but just a different name, just a different outfit. The man who you actually are, the person who you are trying to find, he lives underneath removing all of those things. You've probably heard of the analogy of when Michelangelo was sculpting the David from a block of marble, that famous statue. He said that the perfect statue, the David, already existed in that marble because God had already created it. His job was to simply chip away the excess marble that was surrounding it. That is exactly what we have to do here. We have to subtract and remove all the stuff that is blocking us from the authentic man that we are underneath it all. Thank you for watching. Feel free to go into the comments if you want further clarity on something I said, or if you want me to break something down further. Now, if you do want some more personalized guidance, you don't need to do this. This is just optional. You're more than welcome to work with me for 90 days. I'll give you some personalized guidance through the subtraction method, overcoming not just porn, but all your addictions, but we'll focus on whichever one you want to focus on, whether that's porn or weed or whatever. I'll make sure you know how to implement those 4 factors so that you don't just overcome that one bad habit, but all the ones you might have now or leading up into the future that you might develop. So that'll come with a weekly one-on-one session with myself. That'll be 60 minutes. And throughout the week between those sessions, I'll be giving you accountability and support, because I know firsthand it's not easy to overcome an addiction. So having someone who's been through it themselves, and even to just listen to our crazy mind and to work through those thoughts and emotions, that's something I did wish I had. I had that in other areas of my life, but not with this. I know exactly how valuable it is. Now, you'll also be given an entire content library that I've taken all my past clients through before, and I'll also chuck you into a community with all the other guys that I work with. So to learn more about that, you can book in a call below via the link in the bio or in the description of this YouTube video. If all the calls are booked and there's no spots available left, or if you don't want to book a call in straight away, feel free to hop over to my Instagram and just DM me the word subtract. You can just go into my DMs, my profile message DMs, subtract, and we'll just have a little chat there and see if we need to hop on a call. And the link to my Instagram, I'll pop that also into my bio as well. So thank you for watching this far if you've made it. And as I said, if you need anything, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to go deep into these factors. But yeah, bro, if you've made this far, thank you, not just for watching my video, but thank you to yourself for being serious about trying to quit porn for good and every other habit that you might pick up into the future. So go and implement everything I talked about in this presentation right now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Implement just something today. And I guarantee you that if you implement these 4 steps, you'll have all your bad habits sorted and taken care of within 6 months maximum. And if you don't, it just means you're missing something. You didn't do something properly. And that's okay. It took me 1.5 years to develop the self-awareness as to what I was doing wrong. Take care, bro. I'll see you on the next one.